called the Buddhist Refuge. This is a very special course, one of my favorite ones. There were classes I was listening over 10 times here.
Yeah, all of these Asian classic courses have just huge ideas that are life-changing for the better. Like when I took the courses, there was kind of like a before and after period in my life.
Yeah, and also I was teaching this course several times, and every time you go through this material again, you have an impression that there is another layer that you didn't notice before. So, and maybe you will have the same experience. It is not because you are not attentive or you are not intelligent enough. It is because we constantly plant better seeds and bless you.
A little bit of a cold.
Yeah. So because we constantly plant new great seeds, and we are capable of understanding deeper things every single time, even if you will listen the same exact class.
Yeah, true. Very much true.
Yeah. And class one, let's share the slides. And thank you, volunteers, for helping us with the slides. They're beautiful. So the class one is called Perfection of Wisdom, the Three Jewels. And this is like one of the most fundamental ideas, three jewels in these teachings. I personally do not like to call them Buddhism, because when you call it Buddhism, it looks like, like it's it is same for me that for laws of physics, like laws of physics for Chicago, for Minnesota.
The American idea of the world or something, right?
Yeah.
It's universal. It should work for everybody who's human and who has a mind.
This is something that we all have, independently on whether we believe that this is true or not.
Let's talk a little bit about refuge. What do they mean by refuge before we get started, since this is the first class of the course, since the course is Buddhist refuge?
There will be a lot about refuge in later classes, but I think it's a good idea. Refuge is something that can protect me. Like when a child children hurt themselves, then run to their mom. When I get sick, I go to see a doctor, or when there is a fire, they call 911.
Yeah. I always think of a ship that's like caught in a storm, and so it goes into a harbor for refuge. So it's something that can offer you protection. And so then now we're talking, if you're human, you've got problems, right? And so where do you go for refuge? What actually works? There's lots of there's talking slower helps.
If you translate, then you take refuge in the belief that maybe ACI teacher will slow down.
We'll talk slower, yeah. And so there's all kinds of things we go to for refuge. May or may not work, may or may not offer us some temporary relief or entertainment. Like, people go to refuge for a dinner, right? Like they'll cook a nice dinner, and they're looking for pleasure, right, in their dinner that evening. But it's not going to last. And so we're talking about ultimate refuges, things that were really going to solve your big problems.
So basically, why would you want to listen to these classes? First of all, you need to have problems. And second,
got that done.
You need to realize that your normal refuge, normal protection does not work. For example, I had problems in my relationships, and I tried to do everything almost, like to fix it. I did 10 years of psychotherapy trying to fix my relationships issues, and this is how I came to these teachings, because I was looking for something that will help. Also, I was at the age of losing my job when I heard about Geshe Michael coming to the city. And I had a very nice job, didn't want to lose it, but had a huge conflict with my direct manager, who was that time from Russia. I was from Ukraine, and it was 2014. All these events started to develop, and obviously we have recreated the conflict between ourselves also. And I was thinking, wow, she will fire me. And that was the reason why I came to listen to these teachings.
Problems. People come because they have problems.
Yeah.
So you want to move on to the questions?
Yeah, let's move to the questions to be sure that we will not miss anything. And we were getting ready to the class, and we were also listening to Geshe Michael, and he said, I apologize that the class was a little bit boring.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things you can see over the years, he gets better at teaching. When he taught these, it was 30 years ago, would have been the early 1990s. And he was still studying in the monastery. He was working at Undine and coming out of an academic, very formal Tibetan tradition. And then later, he would adapt the teachings for an American audience and or a Western audience and an Asian audience and a modern audience.
Yeah, but anyway, it was very innovative what Geshe Michael has done, because prior to him, nobody was thinking that it can be done in form of courses and homeworks and questions and analytical meditations by the class, right?
Yeah. If you're interested, I highly recommend watching his classes also. They're available online, and he gets better at teaching over 30 years. He was good to begin with. He gets better. Ina and I we like the original Tibetan style. But if you want it in a more modern version, those are also available online, and highly recommend you watching that. But
you can stick to our classes.
Either way, we'll get you the information.
And also, I think it is important to adapt these teachings, like the format of the teachings. Like we were talking to our sons, and they say like, oh, all these names and years this is boring. We want, the essence. We don't want to study names. So just bear with us.
Yeah,
we want to give you full content, and then we will be working on some maybe new format.
But I think this is good. Frankly, I like the connection to the Tibetan past. I got my first. I took my first vows with Tibetans. I did my first years of studying with Tibetans. I did my first long retreats in Tibetan. And there's a connection to the past. There's a power in the Tibetan words if you have an affinity for it, if you like this stuff. And I think the people who do are actually fortunate, because things, when you're talking about these ancient philosophers, it feels closer, right? There's a connection with it, and if you study the Tibetan words, it's
a special blessing, because many people, they were walking this path and they got to huge realizations, and you will learn what does it mean to be an enlightened being in this course, and then you will know why it is important to know them. It's like in a way it's like your family, because this is where all the teachings come from, through them.
It's very much your family. If you're studying with us in this lineage, you have a connection to Sarah May. you are connected to the Tibetan monastery, Sarah, and the May College in Sarah. And so that's your family. And in fact, we were in Japan for Geshe Michael's teaching in December. And he asked us to go back to India, to go to Sarah, to
stay there for a while,
and to study Tibetan, because there's you have a connection. If you're here studying this, you do have a connection to it. That's your lineage. That's your family.
Okay, let's go. So we will not spend a lot of time on names and years, and we'll go to sexier subjects.
Okay, but the first one is pretty sexy. Give a brief definition of the perfection of wisdom. And so we're going to distinguish the difference between wisdom and knowledge. Knowledge is, an awareness of a fact, right? So like, we now know that you can split an atom, right? But we have the knowledge of how to split an atom. And if you do nothing with it, that knowledge is neutral. If you use that knowledge to power a nuclear reactor, to give people electricity, you could say it's a positive. If you use that knowledge to build a bomb, you could say it's negative, right? Knowledge could be either good, neutral, or negative, either one. Wisdom is knowing what to take up and what to put down to make yourself happy, to bring a positive result. So wisdom is always going to be positive. Wisdom's higher. Wisdom is how you're going to solve your problems. Mm-hmm. So what would be the perfection of wisdom then?
There is a brief definition of the perfection of wisdom, and it's a question of the homeworks. It's the knowledge of a person of the greater way with which they perceive emptiness, and which is imbued with the wish for enlightenment, bodhicitta. And in Tibetan, it is Sherabki Parol to Chinpa. And just repeat to get this blessing. Sherabki Parol to Chinpa. So it means that to get this perfection of wisdom, you have to be a person of Mahayana, working for others, to get enlightened for others. And you need to perceive emptiness. And it needs to be imbued with bodhicitta. What they do not say here, that you need to perceive emptiness directly. And it's very important. So you actually can have this perfection of wisdom, even if you didn't perceive emptiness directly yet, but you can have this sense already, this feeling.
That you can have an intellectual understanding of emptiness, but when they're talking about the direct perception of emptiness, that's always going to be in a deep state of meditation. You can't do it outside. People will say, oh, I was chopping wood and then I had the direct perception of emptiness. And we're going to say that that's not possible. That the only way you can have the direct perception of emptiness is it's a yogic direct perception. You're not seeing it with your eyes. You're not touching it. It's an absence. And you can only see the absence in a deep state of meditation. And you can do it if you're on the Hinayana track, if you're on the lower vehicle track, you can have the direct perception of emptiness without bodhicitta. And then that will lead to nirvana. You can have a cessation of your mental afflictions, but you still have obstacles to omniscience. And so you can enter a state of peace that lasts for eons, but eventually you're going to have to be woken up from that and eliminate the last of your mental obstacles and achieve full enlightenment. If you have the direct perception of emptiness on the Mahayana track, on the greater vehicle track, you're doing that with bodhicitta at the same time. The desire to work for every living being to be free from their suffering. And then when you do that, then you're on the Mahayana track and you're headed for Buddhahood. You're an Arya headed for Buddhahood. You'll have 10 tracks to go through, but we can talk about that in another class. But that's the track to get to Buddhahood.
Yeah, and with every single level, like you are getting to like you're going faster also, right? I mean, it can take you long time if you are in open teachings. But the reason why we have this open teachings that you should come to secret teachings, and then you kind of switch your bicycle or the car, you know, or even, I don't know, you switch bicycle to the car to the plane, and then the plane to a spaceship, and you go somewhere to the moon.
Yeah, the path can pick up speed. I remember we would always talk about, like back when we were studying this stuff, is like, how do you know whether you're on the Hinayana or Mahayana track? Like if you had the direct perception of emptiness and you thought you were on the Mahayana track and you came out and you didn't have the experience of bodhicitta, you're like, well, damn.
Oi.
I was close. I thought I was Mahayana.
That's a bad joke.
Yeah, no, well, it's you see pictures.
You still will have chance because you can get to Mahayana after you have seen everything.
I would still take it. You'll see pictures of paintings of Jesus, right? With the Sakura, the Sacred Heart, and there's this light coming out of his heart, and that's what the bodhicitta looks like. So when you come out of emptiness, you don't have a conceptual thought. You're not saying, "Oh boy, I did it. I'm Mahayana." If you had that thought, you'd automatically not be in emptiness, right? Because you're having a concept, and the direct perception of emptiness is non-conceptual. There are no labels. But when you come out, there's like this light that pours out of your heart, and you see every living being, like in the universe, like, and you see them, and you know who they are, and you know that you will work for them until they're free from all of their suffering. Every living being, every human, every animal, every sentient being in the universe. You see them all individually. And it happens like in almost an instant, because time itself is also empty, right? It doesn't have to function the way it's functioning for us. It's possible to see every living being in an instant.
Yeah, because you took care of other living beings, because you dedicated for so long time all your practices to help all living beings, then you get some control over your time. Like you can shrink your time, you know, and within 5 minutes, like see all these beings of the universe.
It's really cool. It's not just that you can do it. It's you will do it eventually, because because wisdom will win out over ignorance. One day you will do it. So anyway, perfection of wisdom. Not so boring, right?
No, not so boring. Okay, let's let me switch to the slide. I found out how to go into full screen mode. Okay. Finally. Okay.
So we're super happy that everybody is here with us talking about it. It's our favorite subject to talk about. It's a happy thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, it's such a relief to be able. Can I use the word Buddhism?
You can.
Can I use the word karma?
Yes, you can.
It's a relief.
Yeah, we are leading a lot of classes with Bill for just general audience, where we try not to use all these fancy words.
She's always saying, "Don't say that. Don't say that."
And I told him that you cannot say that. You cannot say this. Okay, second question is name the 3 principal sutras on the perfection of wisdom and explain why they're called the mother. When were they spoken? It's an easy question. There is a longer, middle length, and briefer presentations of the perfection of wisdom. And they are called the mother because the wisdom they teach produces enlightened beings as they would be born out of this wisdom.
Yeah.
And they were spoken, all of them, by the historical Buddha Shakyamuni 2,500 years ago. And this is an explanation that is open, and there is a secret explanation. Do you want to tell about it?
I want to talk about the Shakya clan. So
Okay.
Shakyamuni Buddha. Well, you tell them about the secret stuff first.
Okay. So the secret explanation, the mother, is in Tibetan. Actually, it's Yum, as you can see on the slide. Gyandrin Du Sum Yum. And Yum is a part of another word in Tibetan, Yab Yum, and it means that you can meet a partner, and you can create a relationship that will help you to get enlightened very quickly. Correct?
Очень быстро.
Very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah, because you will work a lot.
Well, I've done it both ways. You can have a wisdom partner. It's nice to have a real life partner, like a real partner like a true partner to study with, and
what Bill says,
it's so much more fun, right?
What Bill says is that don't worry if you do not have a partner yet. It's okay. There is a chance for you also. There is another kind of practice. You will just imagine your partner.
Yeah, there are people who prefer to have I'll tell you, a wisdom partner, right? And that's a legitimate practice. And there are people who, particularly monks and nuns, some of them prefer that. It's easier in some ways, more difficult in others, but it's fun. It's fun to have a partner, like a real partner to do this with you. So, Yabyum, mother and father. But anyway, I'm going to talk about the Shakya clan. So he's called Shakyamuni Buddha. This is Gautama Buddha, the Buddha from 2,500 years ago, where most of these teachings are going to originate out of. And he was from the Shakya clan, and which is not to be confused with the Sakyas. The Sakyas are one of the 4 Tibetan schools, right? Nyingma, Gelugpa, Sakya, and oh boy, what's the Kagyu? Thank you. So those were the 4 schools, like saying in Christianity, it would be like Catholics, Episcopals, Presbyterians, all of them Buddhist, but different groups inside of Tibet. But the Shakya clan was the group that the historical Buddha was born into. So that's where Shakyamuni Buddha comes from.
Yeah, okay. Let's go.
Third question?
To the next question. And what we study here, the text is called The Ornament of Realizations. And it was taught by somebody, I remember I had a lot of interest to this personality. He's called Lord Maitreya. And Maitreya is the upcoming Buddha, the next one who will come on this planet. And if you studied ACI 8, or if you will study ACI 8, you will know that Buddhas cannot come just anytime. There is a specific period when they come, and both fortunately and unfortunately, we are born in this period of degeneration, era of degeneration. It means when people's lifespan goes down, and we can see a lot of suffering, wars, pandemics, right? We have seen everything within last 2-3 years. And the next one will be Maitreya. And there will be a famous debate in ACI 4 about whether we can call him the Buddha or not yet.
Yeah.
But somebody named Master Asanga was praying to reach this Buddha, this particular Buddha, Maitreya. He was doing a very long retreat. I mean, your retreat, my love, was a baby retreat compared
3
to
years.
Master Asanga. Just 3 years, not 12. He did his retreat. He tried to leave every single time after his retreat, and he would see some person who would make him feel ashamed that he was not working hard enough to reach Maitreya. And he would go back to his retreat again, and he did it 4 times. So overall, he spent over 12 years in retreats, and there is a famous story how he met the Buddha. Do you?
Well, yeah, I mean, Maitreya?
Uh-huh.
Well, you want, yeah, it's kind of funny. If you've done a 3-year retreat, you'd know what he had been through, because you're sitting in retreat, and I mean, you're by yourself, right? And then, you're saying your prayers.
You think maybe you are crazy?
No, I never thought that was crazy. But you're sitting there by yourself. You're lonely, and you're saying your prayers, and cool things are happening. But boy, you start,
To be worried.
No, I'm not even worried, but you start wanting a change, right? And then you walk out into the world. And mostly, I remember walking out after 3 years and mostly being overwhelmed by the suffering, right? I remember driving into Chicago, and all the cars were clean, the buildings. I'd been living in the desert, I mean, off the grid, no television, no radio, no contact with the outside world. And then you drive into a big city. You hadn't seen anything. Nothing had changed in 3 years, and it's overwhelming because everything's shiny and fancy, and you're hyper aware of the people suffering, right? And you can see that you can feel how unhappy so many of them are. And then, frankly, you've been thinking about getting out, and when you get out, you just want to go back in, which some of the people actually did. So anyway, I understand Asanga. He did it 4 times. 3 years in, I'm going out. Oh, heck, what the hell is this? I'm going back. 3 years later, he's like, oh, I've had it. I'm going out. Oh, well, still hasn't changed. I've forgotten how horrible this is. So anyway, after 12 years,
assemble a tent, and we will not leave it until it will be more peaceful and safe.
Yeah, hard. So after 12 years, Asanga's walking out. He's finally had it, and he sees this dog. And this story.
Please go slower. I can see translators; they cannot manage.
Okay.
Sorry.
So he comes out after 12 years, and he sees a dog that's dying, and we can tell the story in more detail later. But he goes to rescue the dog, and then when he goes to rescue the dog, that was on the side of the road dying, it turns into Maitreya. Like, he's seeing Maitreya, he's seeing the Buddha that was forecast to come, and he's so excited. He puts the dog on his shoulders, Maitreya on his shoulders, and he's running through the town with Maitreya, and all the villagers are looking at him. This guy's got this they see a dying dog on his shoulders, but he's all happy about it.
I remember even they didn't see anything, just one old lady who had extremely good seeds.
No,
She has seen a dead dog
Yeah.
on his shoulders.
that's emptiness, right?
Yeah.
So, but this is the work that was coming from Maitreya to Asanga. About 350 AD is Asanga's dating. And the forecast is there are different time periods when they say Maitreya could show up. One of them is 2,500 years after Shakyamuni would have, and which would be
No.
now. And Geshe was always saying that he's closer than what you think.
Yeah, it's actually, I think it is very important for us to hear it, because I have heard from him saying that he's closer than you can think for already probably 3 or 4 times recently.
Yeah, it's become a constant thing for him to say.
Yeah.
So
this is a very unusual work, as you can imagine. So Master Sangha, who was himself a great practitioner, he was the secretary of the Lord Maitreya, and he was writing down these texts, the Ornament of Realizations,
or the Abhisamaya
Alankara.
in Sanskrit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the things, like how I remember when I was in college and I was studying this stuff, and it read like a fantasy novel, right? It read like Lord of the Rings or something, like, well, all of these levels and all of these things to do and all of these magic powers that happen. And I remember thinking it was just too
cool to be real.
I was like, wow, this is the greatest story I've ever heard, right? How did they do that? I mean, it was
either it's real or they have very good imagination.
Either it was real or it was the most genius person I'd ever met. I mean, Tolkien's good. I love Tolkien. But oh boy, wow, he ain't got nothing on the Buddhist when it comes to like a detailed world, right? And then you can go investigate it yourself. Go meditate and study and examine the ideas. You can see that it's not just fiction. It's real. It's cool.
And some sexy Tibetan words. So Abhisamaya Alankara, or the Ornament of Realization, is Nutagyen. Lord Maitreya in Tibetan will be Jetsun Jampa. Jampa is the word for love in Tibetan. And Master Asanga is Pakpatokme. Okay.
All right. Next question.
Yeah.
Can you move the slide?
Sure.
All right. Who wrote the early Indian commentary on the ornament? The previous book we were talking about, the Ornament of Realizations, that forms the basis for our study, and what are his dates? So somebody wrote a commentary on the book from Maitreya, transcribed by Master Asanga.
And I want to say something about the commentary.
Okay.
Because you will see over and over again that, I was at some point disappointed that we study some commentaries. I want to see what the Buddha said. And I had some reasons to want it, because I remember I was listening to people who were thinking they know the Christianity, and there would be some contradictions in what they would say. I was like, really? Then I decided to read myself what Jesus really said. And I was surprised, because he didn't say anything of what I heard from other people about Christianity. Like, what he was saying was completely logical and interesting and made sense to me. And most of things that I would disagree with were like elaborations of people who maybe did not understand what he was teaching about. So I was really interested to see what the Buddha really said. But here in this tradition, it is very important to study commentaries because the time changed a lot, the language changed. People had great memory. I mean, if you will read any sutra, it starts. How you say it in English? I heard once.
Yeah, once I heard.
Once I heard. Every sutra starts once I heard. So none of the sutras was written by the Buddha Shakyamuni. It was written down by one of his students long after he passed away. I mean, he didn't pass away, but he passed. They would learn it by heart. They would not write it, and then somebody would write it down. And it was very concise, very straightforward, and people that time they would understand the meaning. But unfortunately, the meaning people would lose their good seats to understand it, and they needed somebody to come and explain to them. And basically, we have roughly two layers of commentaries, like earlier Indian commentaries before Buddhism was Buddhist temples and universities were destroyed in India, and Tibetan commentaries, later commentaries. And usually we start to study with later commentaries and then we go to earlier ones, because when you start with the later commentaries, then the earlier ones make sense. Then you can understand what the sutra itself says. So it's like an onion skin. You go with the outer and you go to the core.
And I would say that Geshe with the ACI courses has written a modern commentary on the earlier works, and the ACI courses will unlock the later Tibetan courses, and then the later Tibetan books, they weren't called courses then, but books, and then the later Tibetans will unlock the earlier Tibetans, and then backwards like that. The earlier Tibetans will unlock the late Indians, and the late Indians will unlock the early Indians. And if you just go and pick up, like the Diamond Cutter Sutra without any commentary, it's like,
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It kind of has a mystical feel to it. No eyes, no ears, no, and you're like, what? Like nobody ever did anything. Well, how is that useful, right?
It contradicts to your direct perception, right?
Right. And so, but Geshe, I mean, he wouldn't say it himself during the courses, but it's historic. He's written the commentary that will open the door for you to all of the original works, and you can go back and then you can read the original words of the Buddha and understand it.
Okay.
So the early commentary.
The early commentary that we study is a commentary of Master Haribhadra. And his Sanskrit name is Haribhadra, and he was living around 850 AD. And Tibetan name is Lopon Sengye Sanpo.
Master
Clarification of the meaning. This is the name of the work.
Yeah, so that was the early Indian commentary, and then the Tibetan commentary later was written by Kedrup Tempa Dargye, and his dates are 1493 to 1568. So 1350, about 150 years after Jason Kappa. So And his commentary was called Analysis of the Perfection of Wisdom. Analysis of the Perfection of Wisdom.
And in Tibetan, it is Parchin Tachu.
Parchin Tachu. Okay. So those are the books, the original sources. I mean, honestly, another one of the things too, having taken the ACI courses, I remember wanting to read the original books, and the academic translations coming out of the universities, sometimes they were available, but they were hard to read, and awkward. Geshe-la's group of translators are now producing the whole works, right? And it's interesting to go back and read like the Diamond Cutter Sutra now, which is what I've been reading lately at night.
The commentary.
The commentary.
His Good Night Club is the commentary to Diamond Cutter Sutra now.
Yeah, if you don't know about the Good Night Club, it's the idea that you put down your phones and your computers like at 11 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock in the morning. And if you have to do anything other than sleep, you have to read some kind of Dharma book. And that will put you to sleep.
Very efficiently and quickly.
But actually, it's nice because it puts your mind in a good frame before you go to sleep. But it's interesting because reading through the Diamond Cutter Sutra commentary, it's obvious that the ACI courses are preparing people to read the original commentaries, and in a way that if you tried to hand somebody just the commentary by itself, it wouldn't have had the same impact. Geshe has done a brilliant job of pulling out the big ideas and putting them into the ACI courses in a way that you can grab them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was also thinking that maybe we need now another club. Good Day Club.
How to get your phone during the day.
How not to be attached to your phone and not to lose your time during the day.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next question.
Okay.
Now the sexy part starts. Maybe you didn't notice, but that was the boring one.
Yeah.
So what are the three jewels in which we take refuge? And it is amazing, but in this lineage you are taught correctly. And honestly, I heard about Buddhist teachings before. I didn't hear these things about these three jewels explained as clearly as here. So they are the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel.
So if I say Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, have I got that answer right?
No. If you say Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, your answer is not correct, because we have a physical Buddha. Actually, we will go into details right now, but there is a difference between physical Buddha and the Buddha jewel. There is a difference between Dharma and the Dharma jewel. There is a difference between Sangha and the Sangha jewel. And let's get into some details of it. So there is a definition of the Buddha jewel, and it is important. You want to read, or you want me to read?
I'll read the exact definition and then we'll talk about it. So the Buddha jewel, this is the well, let me talk about first what it isn't. So like you can say like the Buddha, you can say, okay, like the statue. I don't know, can they see the picture there of the Buddha?
Yeah.
So that's the statue. You can say, that's the Buddha. But that's not the Buddha jewel. The Buddha jewel is going to be the actual enlightened being. And so the formal definition they're giving here is the Buddha jewel is an ultimate place of refuge wherein both the needs, those of yourself and others, have been completely satisfied. And then they give some characteristics of the Buddha, Joel. They say he has ultimate knowledge, meaning he's omniscient. Ultimate love, he loves you perfectly. There's no anger or jealousy whatsoever, no mental afflictions whatsoever. So pure love. And the power to satisfy both needs, the needs of yourself and others. And that means that they know perfectly what you need to get enlightened. They're not omnipotent, right? I mean, this is, I think, a problem where, Christianity runs into a problem with omnipotence, because then, well, God could have done anything if he was all powerful. Well, why am I suffering? The Christian model works if you can have faith in it. But then a lot of people, their faith breaks down
because of this issue.
Because of that issue.
Why I suffer so bad? Like, what, my God is not loving?
Yeah. So the Buddha is omniscient, but they're not omnipotent. And the proof of that is, if he loves us and he knows we're suffering, well, then why am I still suffering? Like, if he was omnipotent, you would be free from suffering. It would be over. Samsara would be over.
Yeah. So this is the ultimate place of refuge, where my needs and the needs of everybody else can be completely satisfied, and this is an enlightened being having this having these qualities.
And so it's interesting, because you'll hear people say, so being enlightened and being the Buddha are the same thing. Your goal is to become a Buddha. It's not something for somebody in the past for us just simply to worship. You're going to become the Buddha yourself.
And a Buddha is just a word that comes from Sanskrit. You may think that you will become an angel, right? Not necessarily call it the Buddha, because basically it is not about how to name it. It is about the qualities, and the qualities are the ultimate knowledge, love, and power to satisfy both needs, your own and other people.
And when we talk about the 4 parts of a Buddha now, it's funny, you'll see people on the internet or whatever.
Oh, I got enlightened.
Yeah, they say, well, I went to a weekend meditation retreat and I'm enlightened now. Oh, okay, well, that's impressive. Like, are you omniscient? If you're not omniscient, you still got some work to do.
I remember my very first teacher this lifetime, my spiritual teacher, Master Yu, he was saying, if somebody thinks that he got enlightened, you need to have a pencil, and it should be like with a, how you call it?
A point.
With
sharp point.
Sharp point. And then you just silently approach them and and then you will know if they're enlightened or they will curse you.
And so there's 4 parts. Geshe used to call it the 4 bodies, and I guess traditionally they were called the 4 bodies of a Buddha.
But they are actually 4 parts.
But that can be a little confusing, right? Like, Christians have a hard time with the 3, like
bodies.
Yeah, the 3 parts of God. God's. So, but it's a Buddha has 4 parts. Sambhogakaya. There you go. That's the Sanskrit.
Yeah, we were discussing not to go into difficult terms, but we cannot stop ourselves. Okay, Sambhogakaya.
That's the
enjoyment body.
Yeah, the pleasure body. So this is God in heaven. This is the pleasure body. This is when you see a tanka of an enlightened being, and there's all kinds of light and fire and jewels and all kinds of like that's them in paradise. It's actually quite cool. Like later on, you'll see really elaborate descriptions of what their paradise looks like. And so that's the Sambhogakaya, the father.
The second physical is Nirmanakaya.
Nirmanakaya, right. And so that's the emanation part. That's that would be Jesus on earth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Buddha Shakyamuni.
Yeah, or Buddha Shakyamuni, exactly, right.
In physical form.
Or it could be even
your neighbor.
Yeah, your neighbor, right? Because the Buddha can see
your husband or wife.
Yeah, the Buddha can see the Buddha can see what you need, right? And so maybe there's a lonely old lady and she needs a cat to help get her through. And so the Buddha can emanate as a cat, and then the lady would be walking down the street. Oh, the stray cat, let me take care of it. And so then the lady has some companionship, right? So it can be something as seemingly ordinary as a cat, or it can be something as historically significant as Jesus or Shakyamuni Buddha.
Yeah, or it can be a difficult person at your job who helps you to plant seeds of patience. Maybe your yelling boss, or maybe somebody who irritates you. Okay.
And then there's the other part is there's two parts to the Dharmakaya, right? There's the omniscience of the Buddha. Yeah, and then there's the emptiness, and that's the part that we all have in common with the Buddha. You have that fourth part. You have the emptiness, and your emptiness is exactly the same as the Buddha's emptiness, and it's why you can become the Buddha. It's because your mind is projecting an image onto that blank screen, right? Emptiness is the blank screen, and your mind is projecting an image. And so right now, my mind's projecting an image of Bill McMichael, the human being. If I planted different seeds, I could have planted an image of, Maitreya. Yeah.
Yeah, so emptiness, this Dharmakaya thing, emptiness means actually that we are completely devoid of self-existence. It means that what I am comes from my past deeds. And if I change my deeds, if I plant better seeds, I can see the same shape and form and colors, but as an enlightened being, who does not have to suffer, does not have to die. And I don't have to stay as I am. And this is how we reach enlightenment. We just change these other three parts and keep the emptiness one.
And one other interesting aspect of the Buddha jewel is that they are beyond time. They're not experiencing time sequentially the way we do. They see everything all in one moment. All of the past, all of the present, all of the future, and they know perfectly what everybody's thinking, what everybody has done, what everybody needs, all in a single instant, and it's effortless.
Yeah, I like how Geshe Michael talks about it. It's like you have a castle, but you actually locked yourself in a closet of the castle. No light, like small room, and you just have no access to these other instances of your being. You're locked in the present moment, and you think that it should be like that.
Yeah, your mind has the capacity to be anywhere in the universe. And we've locked ourselves in as human beings into one really, really small little part of it. So,
Okay, I think it's enough about
enough
it.
about the Buddha jewel, right? Yeah, so it's kind of
Very sexy, you know. We cannot stop ourselves.
it's fun. Well, because that's people say, oh, well, I want to get enlightened. What does it mean to get enlightened?
Mm.
Become the Buddha, right? And so, well, what's a Buddha? It's really
Very
profound.
cool.
It's super cool. Show me something cooler. Seriously, right? Makes
Okay.
that sports car I want look pretty silly. Can't go to the far end of the universe. I can only drive around the neighborhood. Like I need something to help me get around the closet really fast.
Um, okay, one more joke, okay, and we go to the next question. I remember Geshe Michael told me once that every American kid, every American guy has 3 dreams. Dream number 1 is to have a sport car. Dream number 2 is to have a blonde lady. Dream number 3, blonde girlfriend. Dream number 3 is to save the universe. So,
I'm working on number 3. Mm.
Geshe Michael also is working on number 3, I guess. He also has the blonde lady.
Yeah, doesn't. And he just bought the truck, which is his version of the sports car.
True.
Yeah.
And real.
Geshe Michael bought a 1953 Chevrolet truck to advertise his restaurant. And he bought it because the first time he ever saw a car and realized that it was a label that he was putting onto a collection of parts, it was a 1953 Chevrolet truck. And so he bought that truck. And like with Geshe Michael, there's always 10 layers of meaning behind everything he does. So he bought his dream car.
Slower. Phil is getting excited and he talks really fast.
It's fun.
Okay.
The Dharma jewel.
Next sexy question. Wait.
You want to tell them what the Dharma jewel is?
Of course, my love. So
Tell them what the conventional tell them what Dharma is.
okay, what we think the Dharma is, because it's also not a common word in English or in any other languages. And by the way, I bow down to all the translators. Thank you very much for your work. You are amazing. Please stay and continue to help us to spread this valuable, priceless knowledge. So the Dharma is, there is a physical Dharma, right? Like in form of books, in form of tapes, I don't know, recordings on our computers. But there is also a Dharma in form of realizations of practitioners. Like if you think that you became a little bit more kind than because of these teachings, then this is already your realization, you know.
But the Dharma jewel is going to be a cessation. And so, for example, like one of the classic cessations is after you've had the direct perception of emptiness.
Not only cessations, right?
No, it's a cessation. The Dharma jewels are cessations.
I mean, direct perception of emptiness also.
Yeah, and it's and so for example, after the direct perception of emptiness, you're going to have you will never again doubt Buddhist teachings. And so that's a permanent cessation of a mental affliction, of the 84,000 mental afflictions we have prior to the direct perception of emptiness. And then you'll go through a process after having had the direct perception of emptiness, right? You lose, like when you first have the direct perception of emptiness, you lose 2 or 3 of the 84,000 mental afflictions. And then as you go back and continue to review what you've learned in the direct perception of emptiness, you'll continue to eliminate more of them as you go higher through the levels. But one of them is when you, after you've had the direct perception of emptiness, you'll never again doubt Buddha's teaching. Like you've seen it, you know, you're done. And even, they say even before you've had the direct perception of emptiness, you can reach an intellectual point where you'll never go back to the lower levels. But it's a cessation, yeah.
Or a path. So the definition is it's a truth or kind of reality which relates to the greater way and to the enlightened side of the four truths, and which involves either a cessation or a path. And the examples of cessations you heard, and an example of a path is like reaching, for example, true renunciation, when you are not deceived anymore by this reality. You know that the only thing that is true here, that if you do not work on your seeds, then the suffering will just multiply, right? And you reach with the true renunciation the path of accumulation.
And we got time. There are 5 paths in everybody's spiritual life that you're going to go through. The first path is accumulation, where you reach renunciation, where you're tired, you're done with samsara and getting out. And then the second path is preparation, and that's where you reach an intellectual understanding of emptiness. You're studying, your understanding of emptiness is growing. And
guess what happens, how it looks like. Somebody comes to your city and teaches you the pen.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just bump into a YouTube channel and hear the pen from somebody, or you do, I don't know what, Millones Probirke, the million course of something.
And we can talk about it later in the classes, but they're very specific stages inside of preparation. And some pretty profound things are happening there before you've had the direct perception of emptiness, which is the third path, the path of seeing.
I want to add something about the second path.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Is the need.
I want to add something about the second path, because I remember, I don't know how about you, but when I came to these teachings, my old bad seeds started to ripen, and I had a lot of troubles. I mean, all kinds of strange stuff happened to me. And I was tired of all these changes and of negative ripenings. And I remember the class, I think it was for Abhidharma. I think it was a mixed nuts class with Stanley. And there was a specific description of the second path and of the small stages, sub-stages of this path. It is very detailed. Mm-hmm. And so I want to, if you're like me, your old bad seeds started to ripen, then I want to give you some hope, okay? There is a stage before you will see emptiness directly. There is a period of time when your karma gets to some stable, it gets stabilized. And things start to go smoother. So wait until you'll see.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll talk about it in depth later. So the accumulation, preparation, the path of seeing, which is the direct perception of emptiness, the path of habituation, where you go through the 10 bhumis, the 10 levels of a bodhisattva afterwards, where you're refining your knowledge of what you've seen during the direct perception of emptiness. And then the 5th one is the path of no more learning, Buddhahood, enlightenment. So those are the 5 paths. Also part of the Dharma jewel.
Okay. So let's go to the next.
All right. And so, right, the books are just Dharma. The Dharma jewels are the cessations or the paths.
Yeah. Stop. Okay, the definition of the Sangha jewel. So the Sangha jewel, okay, the Sangha, ordinary Sangha is actually monks. And the very first one was the community around the historical Buddha Shakyamuni. So, and just in common terms, we usually think that Sangha is a community of monks or practitioners that are following usually the same lineage of teachings. And this is like physical Sangha. The Sangha jewel is a realized being who possesses a number of 8 fine qualities of knowledge and liberation. And the word realized being here means anyone who has seen emptiness directly. And we will not go into details of 8 qualities. We will do it in the beginning of the next class.
Because frankly, we got caught off guard. Then when Geshe taught this originally in New York, he said he didn't understand what the 8 fine qualities of knowledge and liberation were. And so he didn't teach it in New York. 30 years later, in Guadalajara, he taught it. And we just discovered that teaching in, I discovered it this morning, frankly. And so I wasn't prepared to teach it. We'll go back and listen to his Guadalajara teaching and teach it better for you tomorrow. But this is one of the cool things.
Because next class is quite short, so we have time.
Well, and this is what Geshe has been able to do, right? With his database and computers and studying and his continued knowledge. Like if he doesn't understand something now, he can, do a search for 8 fine qualities and sort through millions of pages of text and 2,500 years worth of writing, and he can say, oh, well, okay, not only is that the 8 fine qualities, I can see he has a misspelling here. It's really, it might be the cleanest it's been in 2,000 years. It's extraordinary. So
okay, but basically, and also interesting thing that they're actually not 8, they're 6.
Well, the 6 that are 8, but then we can talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, we will talk about it tomorrow. They're not complicated, but quite cool.
So the actual Sangha jewel are people who've had the direct perception of emptiness, right?
And I kind of want to summarize the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel, because it took me, to be honest, many years to understand, and I'm sure this is not the ultimate understanding. I'm sure I can go even deeper. But as of today, what I understand that the Buddha jewel is for you. I mean, the historical Buddha has almost no interest for you unless you can implement his teachings, right? And why it can work? Because you are empty, you are a blank screen, and you can project anything onto this blank screen, including yourself as an angel, as a deity, omniscient, right? Not omnipotent, but omniscient, and quite powerful, to be honest. If not omnipotent, quite powerful. And you don't have to suffer, you don't have to die. And the Buddha jewel actually tells you that the only common thing that you have in common with the Buddha is your emptiness. And this is your eligibility to become a Buddha. This is why you really can make it, because you don't have to be in this stupid body that will get old and die. You can completely change it. You can change the profile, the Dharma jewel actually it tells you that I mean cessations, realizations on the path, right? It means that there is a path that you can walk. Because you're empty, you can walk this path. And the Sangha jewel are actually realizations in the minds of practitioners, of people who have seen emptiness directly, who have reached nirvana, Buddhahood, etc. And it means that the path works. I mean, you're eligible, there is a path, and it does work. Just walk it.
Yeah. All three are related. The Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, the Sangha jewel, all three are related to emptiness, right?
Yeah.
And why is that important? Well, everything in your world is a projection onto emptiness, up to and including your aging and death. If you're human and you see yourself aging and heading towards death, that itself is a projection, and it doesn't have to be like that. You can change that projection. You don't have to die. That's a movie that we've written for ourselves, and if you don't like it, you can rewrite the movie. And there have been people in history who've known that and done it. It's really, frankly, it's fascinating. You can read through the New Testament. Jesus knew that you could rewrite the movie. He says quite clearly, truly there are some here who will see the kingdom of heaven before they die. And then
quotations takes a little bit longer to translate.
Yeah.
I'm like,
truly,
also a translator.
Truly there are some here who will see the kingdom of heaven before they die. And then he's not talking about anything other than people reaching heaven before they die. And the reason why we know this is because after he says this, the crowd gets mad at him. And they say, well, who are you to say that we don't have to die? Abraham died. Who are you to say that we don't have to die? And then they try and beat him up and he disappears. And because people are people, right? There's other examples in all kinds of works that we can go on and on and on about, but we live in a degenerate era. People have forgotten this. They have the words, they don't even know what they mean anymore. Rewrite your movie.
And we have one question left, and this is my favorite question, to be honest.
Sound like Geshe. Geshe is always teaching his favorite question every class.
It's true. This is my favorite one. And this is related to ultimate refuge, like what makes something an ultimate refuge? It means that you will reach the goal of the journey. This is the protection and the only protection. So ultimate means that it will not deceive you. You will really come to what you're looking for. And I was also thinking, I think we could talk about it when we were teaching the Buddha jewel, that you can take refuge also in something very cool. You can take refuge in your future enlightenment. Because if you are a sentient being, I mean, forget about people, ants, bees, flies, bugs, cockroaches. What else?
Dolphins.
Cats.
Elephants.
Rabbits.
Mice.
Anybody. will be the Buddha. Every single living being will become a Buddha. So even if you think it will take a long time, whatever, there will be a moment when you will reach your final ultimate Buddhahood. And that moment, you will become a totally different being who has access to all the times and space. And if you will not feel well, if you will feel doubts, if you will think that you are not good enough, feel yourself low, think about this being you will become. Try to feel like him or like her, and try to think, okay, if she or he is helping me right now, because they do, how do they help me? Where can I see them helping me? And you will definitely find.
You can ask the Buddha that you will become to help you. You can, they can see you, they're beyond time, they know where you are. You can ask them for help. It's called, the formal term is result refuge. Like the result of you becoming Buddha, you can go for refuge to the Buddha that you will become. And you can do it all the time. You can just, they know what you're thinking. You don't even have to say anything out loud, or you can just say, please help me say the right thing during this class. and they can talk through you. They can help you, and please help me get enlightened. And then it has the effect of bringing them closer to you. It will make the process faster for you. Result refuge is the fancy term.
Okay, and this is the end of the class, and just close your eyes for a second and think that you spent about 1 hour 15 minutes in this class, and make a wish that everything that you learned or everything you have done within this 1 hour 15 minutes could help yourself and also every single living being. Somehow it should be helpful for them too. Go back to your breathing, open your eyes. Thank you very much for listening. Please stay close. Thank you very much, translators and technical team, all the organizers. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Come back. Lots of fun stuff, so we'll talk about.
Lots of fun stuff tomorrow. Bye.